Good. You need a ride. That would be amazing.
President Cyril Ramaphosa says resolving the energy crisis and bringing an end to blackouts is urgent. The ongoing power cuts have caused economic devastation across the board. The franchise sector has not been spared and is also suffering debilitating losses. Now they're calling on government to take urgent action to resolve the energy crisis. Let's discuss this further now with Richard Mukheibir. He is a board member of the Franchise Association of South Africa and he joins us from here in Johannesburg. Richard, thank you so much for your time. We've received an outcry, an outpouring of statements from various parts of the economy calling and begging government to intervene in some way, shape or form to try and prevent what's expected to be a bloodbath in terms of job losses and in terms of economic growth, and the list goes on. Your organization has gone a step further, and you're also calling on government to take urgent action to resolve the energy crisis and bring national security under control to prevent an explosion of unrest and civil disobedience. That's a very, very strong statement to make, and your organization and your various members, thousands of members, as the case may be, are very worried that the result of this very serious energy crisis might end up in the streets.
Marcel, thank you very much for the opportunity and good day to your eNCA viewers. Yes, franchise, or FASA, the Franchise Association of Southern Africa, effectively represents the Franchise Association, which amounts to about 14% of our GDP. That would be around about 750 billion rand a year across 14 different sectors. And the franchise industry per se employs in excess of 500,000 people. So we're talking about a large organization, but more so in the context of the franchisees within the franchise sector. These are generally small business people who've invested their life savings in a, let's say, a fast food restaurant or any one of the franchises that we represent. And load shedding is bad enough as it is, but when the frequency increases and the duration increases as well, it causes complications that go beyond just increasing costs and reducing expense, increasing costs and reducing income. It gets to a point where you can, in fact, be putting these small business people out of business, and consequently, jobs get lost. And really our objective as the Franchise Association is to help our country grow our economy. And when you switch the power off, we can't do that. Simple.
And what has the reaction been from government, this call saying that you're worried that we might see unrest as a result of this power crisis and the expected bloodbath, as you called it, in terms of employment?
Well, we're hoping that's not going to get there. We're hoping that, like many times in South Africa, we take a few steps back from the abyss and get things sorted out. But it really is, it's at a point where that crossover between a reduced income stream and an increased cost structure becomes quite significant. I mean, I was talking to some banks during the course of the week, and they were saying to me that they're having to include, when new franchises come for funding, what is the new franchisee's plan to mitigate the load shedding situation? So, you know, we're very fortunate. My brand, being Cash Converters, requires a relatively small amount of power. We have a 5 kVA generator and switch on some lights and our computer system works. But if you're talking a fast food restaurant or if you're talking a supermarket that requires a cold chain, these are massive operations that need big generators, and that's a big capex cost. And so not only is the generator problematic in the context of the initial costs, but when you increase the frequency and the duration of the load shedding, the cost of running those things becomes so prohibitive that in fact it's not a solution at all. So that's the thing that we need to.
I just spoke at length
carry
with
on,
the
Marcel.
acting government spokesperson, Michael Curran, a little while ago, and we spent quite a bit of time talking about timeframes, because he spoke about immediate interventions that are being put in place in terms of government's energy action plan, and then there's medium term, and then of course long term. And that's against the backdrop of us being told by Eskom that load shedding or power cuts will be with us for at least 2 years. And we try to put a time frame on those immediate interventions. They're looking at the generating capacities, ensuring that those stages don't go too high. That's the kind of thing that they're looking at for immediate interventions. They're bringing some of the lost specialists back into Eskom to start stabilizing certain power units. Does that help you and your members? A time frame of some kind, so that you know this is for how long we need to put an emergency plan in place to keep your heads above water. What would you like to hear more of from government in terms of communicating what they're expecting to do and what their goals are to try and stabilize our energy grid?
I'm hoping the government is recognizing how serious the situation is, and I get a sense that it might be the case. But the reality is that the promises that have been made over the last 5, 6, 7 years haven't come to fruition, and we end up going from an average of 2 blackouts every month for 2 hours to where we are at the moment at 6 to 8 hours a day. And I sense that there's no immediate fix. And in fact, I'm telling my franchisees to plan for a problematic 2023. And if everything comes about according to plan, then we may be getting our head out of the water in 2024. But yes, it's a significant problem. It doesn't help us in terms of growing our economy at all. I cannot imagine what it must be like to be a franchisee in a supermarket chain, or require significant power to keep a manufacturing line going. Not even in the franchise industry, that would be super problematic as well. So it is a real big problem. I'm encouraged, however, by the grit and determination of South Africans. We will get through this, but it's not going to be easy. You know, the Reserve Bank are talking about a reduction in our GDP this year. I think they're talking that we might be lucky if we grow 0.3, maybe 0.5 growth in GDP, and a lot of that very small growth can be laid at the door of all of this load shedding and power interruptions that we're having. And it's probably the single biggest, or one of the top 3 issues that we've got to deal with. We have to grow our economy. We cannot continue doing what we're doing over and over again. And so, yes, I'm encouraged to see that more people have been employed with skills into Eskom. I'm encouraged to see that the government's taking some action in context of supposed sabotage at Eskom. And I do think that if we all pull together, we can come through this, but it's not going to be an easy 2023, is our assessment.
Yeah, and rightly so. That was Richard Mukheibir. He is a board member of